All right, I'd like to thank Stephanie and David for organizing this. And today I'm going to talk to you about results from an initial parent study my advisor and I did. And specifically in this study, we were targeting parents of 8th graders, their knowledge about college and financial information, and beliefs about their child in school. And so we know from past research that parents do not know about college and financial aid information. In one survey of parents of high school students who expected to attend college, only 36% of parents could name a specific loan as a source of financial aid information, 38% could name a specific grant, and 42% could name a specific scholarship. And therefore, we know that parents do not know about college and financial aid information even during high school when it's important for college preparation and access. In addition, we know that students aren't having conversations about college and financial aid until late in their high school career. So for example, in this graph that does not have the values on, but in this graph, students in 6th to 8th grade, only 27% of students in 6th to 8th grade report having conversations about college and financial aid with either their friends, counselors, or parents. But this number jumps up to 71% in 11th and 12th grade. So from past research, we know that parents do not know about college and financial aid information, and students aren't having conversations about college and financial aid information until later in their high school career. And this is detrimental because many students have already formed their college aspirations prior to this point. So why is college information early, or why is early college information important? It's important because this lack of information can serve as a barrier to college enrollment. So the earlier one knows about college, the better for college enrollment. Having parents who know about college and who communicate that information to their children is positively associated with students' college aspirations as well as their later college enrollment. And so if we look at past interventions in economics and education, they use information-based interventions to target students or schools directly. For example, in one intervention with schools, schools were provided with additional college counselors who provided information about college to students. In another intervention, students were provided or exposed to a college information resource session where they detailed the college process. And although these interventions are important and effective, they do not target parents, and they are later in the high school careers. And so based on past research, we know that parents are an underutilized resource. And so in the current study, we wanted to target parents early and directly. So we targeted 8th grade parents in order to provide this college information earlier in the process and to initiate important discussions with their child about college. In addition, we thought it was also important not only to provide the college and financial aid information, but also to target certain social psychological beliefs that we thought were important in helping parents feel comfortable about talking to college, or about talking with their students or their children about college. And so what we did is we targeted specific social psychological beliefs related to identity-based motivation, as well as provided students or parents with college and financial aid information, all within a unique parent panel design, which I'll talk about later. So building from past research, we know that in identity-based motivation, that students' education-dependent future identities, or how they see themselves in the future, such as wanting to be an engineer or lawyer, are important for their motivation and achievement. And we also know that how they interpret difficulty or academic challenges along the way are important. Specifically, do they interpret difficulty that arises in school as something that is important and it happens normally? And this can be important, this can predict later success in school. And so what we wanted to do is translate these beliefs to the parent level. Specifically, we thought it was important that parents know about their child's future identities and that they connect them to school. So it's possible that parents do not know about child's future identities and they do not know how to communicate this information to school, or this information to their children, and this can be detrimental and they may not be as receptive to the college and financial aid information. In addition, we also thought it was important not only to target parents' knowledge about their child's future identities, but we also wanted to target their beliefs about interpretation of difficulty. Specifically, we wanted to get parents to understand that difficulty that their child encounters in school is something that is normative and important. And we thought this was important because parents who interpret difficulty as something that is important may be more receptive to college and financial aid information and feel more comfortable talking with their child about school more generally. And so that led us to two hypotheses. We hypothesized that parents in the parent panel would report increased beliefs about interpretation of difficulty for their child in school, and also increased plans to talk to their child sooner about college and financial aid. To talk more specifically about what the parent panel study is, we recruited 6 parents of former 8th graders who participated in a moderated discussion. We met with these parents prior to the event multiple times, and we asked them questions about their child's middle school experiences, how they help their child with academic challenges, how they communicate with their child about future goals, and the types of information that they wish they would have known about college and financial aid when their child was in 8th grade. And from these responses, we designed a script that was used in the parent panel. And the parents in the parent panel played a key role in our treatment group. Our participants were 49 parents of 8th graders, 39 were women. And it was the sample was diverse in terms of income and education, with 50% reporting less than a 4-year college education, 17% reporting household income below $25,000, 37% reporting household income between $25,000 and $49,000, and 39% reporting household income over $75,000. It was also a diverse sample in terms of race and ethnicity, with 34% white, 34% black, and 20% Hispanic. So parents were randomly assigned to the parent panel or control condition, and there was a survey on motivation and communication measures after the study. Specifically, parents who were assigned to the control group broke into small groups amongst themselves and answered questions regarding their child's middle school experiences and transition into high school more generally. No questions were asked in the control group about college or financial aid, and they received no additional materials. And they also did not hear from the parent panel at all. So, and participants who were assigned to the parent panel condition heard parents in the parent panel answer a wider range of questions about their child's middle school experiences, but also questions targeting our specific psychological processes in college and financial aid information more generally. Specifically, parents in the parent panel received a handout, access to a password-protected website, and also listened to the parent panel discussion. And across these materials, there were 4 main points that were emphasized. The first point, as a way to introduce the topic and the materials presented, the parents talked about their child's middle school experiences, and then we moved into the psychological processes that we wanted to target. Next, parents talked about how they help their child overcome academic challenges and how they view academic challenges themselves. Next, we had them talk about ways and strategies that they use to communicate with their child regarding their future goals and identities. And lastly, the parent panel discussed information about what they'd like to know when their child was in 8th grade. And all of this information was expanded upon on the password-protected website that they received access to, particularly information regarding financial and college aid. We gave them access to specific resources for grants, loans, scholarships, as well as college saving opportunities. To provide some examples of what the parent panel discussion sounded like, we have an example of a response by a parent, and he is responding to a question about how he helped his child with academic challenges along the way. And he says, "We've always said to our kids, we're not mad at you for getting a B if it's because you're struggling with material or hit a bump in the road. Just keep at it." So in this example, you see a parent who understands that challenges in their child's school are something that comes up normally, but it's also important for the parent to see those challenges as being something that comes up naturally, and it's important for the child to see those challenges and also want to overcome those challenges. An example of a parent responding to college and financial aid question in which they were asked what type of information they would like to have known when their child was in 8th grade, we see that the parent says, "As a single parent, I spent a lot of time living in the present, and if I had known about flexible saving options in 8th grade, I think that would have helped a lot." So in this example, a parent is describing her own experiences of not knowing enough about college and financial aid. We thought this was an effective way to communicate to parents about the importance of talking about college and financial aid early on in the process. Our first outcome of interest was understanding parents' beliefs about interpretation of difficulty in their child's school. And so we wanted to know if parents who were exposed to the parent panel would report believing that it was more important when their child faced difficulty. And this was adapted from previous research. It's a 4-item measure, and the example item is, when my child is working on a school task that feels difficult, it means that task is important. And so what we see here is we see that a significant effect of the intervention or of the parent panel designated by the blue bars, such that parents in the parent panel reported believing that it was important for their child to overcome difficulty when they encountered it in school. And we believe this is a significant first step in changing parents' beliefs about their child and their difficulty in school. And these initial steps in changing parents' beliefs about academic challenges could lead to long-term outcomes in terms of their behavior and the discussions they want to have about college with their child. Our second outcome of interest was we wanted to understand if parents plan to talk to their child sooner about college and financial aid. And the question was, when is the next time that you plan to talk with your child about college information or about financial aid information? And so here we wanted to understand if the parent panel and hearing about experiences of former parents and the lack of information that they had would motivate parents to want to talk to their child sooner about college and financial aid information. This was a 7-point scale, with 1 being after next school year and 7 being tonight. And what we see again is that we see in this graph, we see a significant effect for the intervention as well as a significant effect for income. So the purple bars are parents who were exposed to the parent panel, and the gray bar were parents who were in the control condition. And on the bottom, we see it as a function of income. So lower income in our sample is less than $50,000. Middle income was $50,000 to $75,000, and higher income was $75,000 or more. And you see that regardless of income level, parents who were exposed to the parent panel reported wanting to talk to their child sooner about college and financial aid information. So parents in the lower income on average reported wanting to talk to their child this semester. Parents in the parent panel in the middle income this month, and parents in the parent panel in the higher income group this week. And so so the parent panel was effective in promoting and getting parents to change their attitudes and intentions and plans about college and financial aid information. So in summary, we provide evidence that 8th grade parents can be receptive to early college information, and that one does not have to wait until high school to deliver this information to parents and students. We also provide initial evidence that utilizing peers to connect with parents may be a particularly effective way to deliver this information, and that future research should extend this and look into additional ways in which we can recruit former parents to hear about their experiences as a way to promote not only college and financial aid information, but also target specific social psychological beliefs that may be important in helping parents change their own beliefs about their child's school as well as their subsequent behaviors. And lastly, we provide initial causal evidence that parents' beliefs about their child in school can be changed, particularly their identity-based motivation beliefs, and that parents who were in the parent panel reported believing that it was important for their, or believing that difficulty in their child's school was important, and that these types of beliefs may be particularly effective in helping parents feel more comfortable in the future about talking with their child about school and also about college and financial aid. And this brings me to my last point, that we want to replicate and extend these findings with student and behavioral outcomes longitudinally so that we understand if the parent panel had any effects on parents over the long term as well as students, and also understand how these beliefs and behaviors that parents have about school interrelate over time. So for example, does parents' initial changes in their interpretation of difficulty lead to later discussions about college and financial aid with their child? And 2 implications flow from this research. First is a theoretical implication that there's further evidence that you can adapt certain social psychological processes to the parent level. In another utility value intervention in which parents received information about the importance of math and science, students had positive outcomes in terms of more course taking in that intervention. In our current intervention, we change parents' beliefs about the interpretation of difficulty, and adding to, further evidence that these types of social psychological processes can be used at the parent level to change their beliefs about school. And a practical implication is utilizing parents' social networks as a particularly effective route of transmission of college and financial aid information. In the parent panel, they heard from other parents and talking about their experiences. And we also know from past research on financial aid that parents rely heavily on their social network as a way to learn about college and financial aid information. And this may be interventions that target this parent social networks may be particularly effective for low SES parents who may not have the same type of access to social networks with college information. And with that, I'd like to I'd like to thank the parents and school staff, as well as the Status Cognition and Motivation Lab at Northwestern University and Institute of Education Sciences for their funding. Thanks.
So I think we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you have questions, if you want to just let us know who your question is addressed to, and then we'll answer it. So, yeah.
Both are very important. So, and I think social psychology, the irony is that social psychology highlights how important the structural factors are. Again, it's a kind of issue with the control condition where what is going on under normal circumstances in the social structure that deprives kids of the affirmation, the messages of growth that they, if they had gotten, would have been able to benefit from and grow and show their potential. So just 2 points. I think you need both. It's like a dance between psyche and structure. I have to kind of be ready to seize opportunities, and the opportunities have to be there. So it's like a sort of reciprocally reinforcing dance. But also, if a psychological manipulation has a big impact, it suggests what is missing in terms of the messages that exist in the institution for a particular group.
I think a lot of times when we talk about interventions that seem to have just a really subtle tweak, that what these interventions are really doing is priming the pump to change the perceptions, to maybe change behaviors. But we also have to make sure that we're not just changing these perceptions and the reality hasn't changed. So I think we can do a lot to change the perceptions, but realize that we're going to also have to work on the reality piece as well. Other questions?
Sure, that's a great question. So for those who didn't hear, he was asking about the effect at the end when we broke it down by income. And the effect was stronger for higher income parents than it was for lower income parents. And ideally, we would obviously like to help lower income parents because they are less likely to receive this information. One thing is, the sample size was fairly small. And the other thing I would say is that we are targeting it in 8th grade. And so one possible reason for this is that low-income parents may be particularly unreceptive to this type of information very early in 8th grade and be less likely to maybe see, or this may be the first time they hear about this information, and so that could be it. And then in terms of help or thinking about ways in the future to help lower-income parents learn more about financial aid, I think the parent panel itself was a interesting and unique design. But I think emphasizing maybe even designing ways to make the parent panel even more reflective of lower income parents, or bringing about stories from lower income parents that are particularly tangible and highly salient, maybe more effective way to communicate the information. But obviously, leave it up to future research. Another question?
So in this data set, we do not, unfortunately, have that. But in future work, we're actually using ear devices that students will have on their phones. They'll be able to capture what the instructors say, and then hopefully we would also be able to assess those instructors' actual mindsets themselves. So in these data, no, unfortunately, we do not have the actual ones. That's why it's really important in future work to be able to test the accuracy, in a sense, of these perceptions. But we think that it's important that these perceptions are also impacting these downstream consequences, even if we don't necessarily know how accurate they are in terms of what the instructors themselves believe. I think past work would suggest that that's probably the case.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't recall for sure, but my recollection is that both, regardless of gender, minority students go down from 6th to 8th grade in terms of their trust, but the drop occurs earlier for minority girls in the 6th grade. 6th grade seems to be kind of a key transition point for girls, and then 7th grade, the drop happens more for males. I don't know why that is. It's something that just kind of came bottom up from the data, but it seems like the transition into 6th grade is really big for girls. Transition for 7th grade, that's where race starts to come online as an issue. And then minority boys start to show a decline.
Yeah, so another good question. He was asking about potentially threatening effects of learning or of students learning about college and financial aid, particularly in low-income areas who may see this college and financial aid information as threatening. We don't have any data on that, but past research suggests that in low-income families, if the parent knows about college and financial aid, that is actually related to later college aspirations and enrollment. So it seems to be that if the parent knows about financial aid information, or if the student knows about the financial aid information, or wherever they get it from, in low-income families, that is actually at least important for their expectations and their actual enrollment. But I don't know of any research that looks at potentially threatening effects of that type of information.
Okay, so I think that's all the time we have. Thank you all so much for coming. And if you have any further questions, we'll try to stick around for a little bit to talk to you.